What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel where we speak the truth, we're honest, and we give our takes on the Miami Dolphins. Today is roster cut day, so I figured I'd stop by for a little bit and give my thoughts on the initial Miami Dolphins 53-man roster, who made the team, who got cut off the team, who could be going on the practice squad. I mean, I don't really know who's going on the practice squad or not, so maybe we might not talk about that. But we also have the situation with Odell Beckham Jr., which I will get to when we talk about the wide receiver core, because I didn't expect for it to be as thin as it is. They are extremely thin at wide receiver, and we'll dive into all of that. I thank you guys so much for joining me here today. This will probably be the only video that I do this week. I'm just going to lay back, chill for the rest of the week, because next week starts consistent, real football, which means you get content here every single week, 4 to 5 days. And I'll already have the schedule out. Monday, Labor Day, just like last year, is going to be our season preview. So on Monday, we're previewing the entire season. We're talking everything. Miami Dolphins on Monday. Wednesday is our picks video, going over the week 1 matchups, who's going to win, and all that shenanigans. Thursday, don't have a video. Thursday's opening night, the Baltimore Ravens take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Friday, there is a game, the Green Bay Packers versus the Philadelphia Eagles in Brazil, but Friday is preview day. So on Friday next week, we are going to be previewing the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Miami Dolphins, the first game of the season for your Miami Dolphins. And possibility AEW's All Out is next Saturday, so there's a possibility I might review that or not. I'm not sure yet. But Sunday, of course. Sunday is the main course meal. Sunday is the first post-game recap video of the 2024 season, which is your Miami Dolphins taking on Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we will start talking about the Jaguars on Monday's video. On Monday's season preview, that's when we start diving in to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got a nice young team. I'm not sleeping on the Jaguars. I actually think they have a good shot at making the playoffs this year. People are hyping up the Indianapolis Colts and Anthony Richardson a lot. I think the Jaguars are still better than them, if I'm being totally honest with you. So we'll talk all that on Monday, but let's talk about what happened today. And with the 53-man roster set, let's talk about who made the team. So let's go with offense. And we have our quarterbacks, Tua Tagovailoa and Skylar Thompson. Mike White got cut on Sunday. Justifiably, does he make it back on the practice squad and back on the team? I have no idea. The quarterbacks in free agency, they are rough. I know Ryan Tannehill is still out there, but then you're looking at quarterbacks like Brian Hoyer, Blaine Gabbert. I don't know if you want to risk that if you're the Miami Dolphins. I would indeed bring in a third quarterback. I don't know. We're going to have to see the moves that they make in the next couple days, because obviously 2 quarterbacks is not enough. But I do think that they are going to make a move for a third quarterback. There's some situations, there's some positions that they're going to have to make moves for. And I think quarterback is one of them, because they need to carry a third quarterback on the team. Knock on wood, God forbid Tua Tagovailoa goes down with an injury. We need a backup for Skylar. And here's why. Even if they sign Tannehill, Tannehill is not going to be the backup. Tannehill is going to come in as the third string because Tannehill does not know this Mike McDaniel offense. He has to learn an entire new offense. So even if they sign Ryan Tannehill, he's not coming in to be the backup. He's going in to back up Skylar Thompson. So he's going to be the backup to the backup. And if, God forbid, Tua Tagovailoa goes down with an injury, Skylar Thompson is this team's starting quarterback. So we better pray Tua has another healthy season because it could get rough. It could get rough. Running backs, fullbacks, we have Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Wright, Jeff Wilson, and Alec Ingold. Chris Brooks ended up not making the team. He was waived today. Hopefully he does make his way back to the practice squad and back onto the roster. He had some nice highlights last year, particularly in the game versus the Carolina Panthers in garbage time. He got himself a touchdown last year in that game, and he was able to show out in that game against the Carolina Panthers. And he had some good highlights in preseason too. He had that 59-yard run against the Washington Commanders, but unfortunately on the next play, offensive line gets blown up and Chris Brooks gets a concussion. I don't know if that's the reason why Chris Brooks did not make this team, but that's what happens. And they have 4 running backs, which should be plenty, and Alec Ingold's a reliable. He's always going to be there. And I hope that Chris Brooks finds himself back on this team in the near future, possibly this week. Wide receiver. Only 4 guys made the team. River Craycraft is on IR. He got hurt in the Washington game, so he's out for the first 4 games. He cannot play the first 4 games of the season. But for wide receiver, you're looking at Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Malik Washington, and Braxton Berrios. And there's some receivers around the league that, pretty noticeable, got cut today. The Denver Broncos cut Tim Patrick. The New York Giants cut Isaiah Hodgins. But one name, if I had to make a prediction, I think the Miami Dolphins are going to bring in Kadarius Toney. He just feels like a guy, and I know he had his problems last year. But Kadarius Toney feels like a guy that Mike McDaniel could fix over time. And Kadarius Toney, a player like him, could make sense for the type of offense that we run for the Dolphins. And I would not be surprised if they end up signing Kadarius Toney to the practice squad or however that is. But, for wide receivers, and this could also be the reason why they have 4 tight ends, because the Miami Dolphins ended up keeping 4 tight ends, which we know. But another situation that I want to get to is OBJ. And I listen to the Big O radio show. Shout out to Big O. I listen to it. I try to listen to it most of the time, but really this last couple weeks I've been listening to him a lot. And he's been saying, Odell's going to be fine. Odell will be there week 1. Odell is getting work in on the sideline. And we come today, and Odell is not going to be there week 1. Odell is starting out the season on PUP, the physically unable to perform list. So now Miami has Odell Beckham, Bradley Chubb, Cameron Good, and Isaiah Wynn, who can't play the first 4 games of the season. When OBJ comes back, hopefully after the bye, And even though I've been listening to Big O, and Big O's been saying he'll be there week 1, all that, with his situation, I think it's for the best that OBJ starts out the season on the pup. There's no need to rush him into this offense. I do think you need another receiver, though, and I do think a guy like Kadarius Toney does make sense for this offense. But I think that, I think that Odell, in the surgery he had in the offseason, it makes sense for him to start out the year on the PUP. So I'm not totally mad about it. All right, I'm not totally mad about that. Tight end. Let's go through this pretty quickly. Tight end: Tanner Conner, Julian Hill, Jonnu Smith, Durham Smythe. Absolutely love that they have 4 tight ends. That might be the pros. There's pros and cons to them having 4 wide receivers. Definitely one of the pros is the fact that we have 4 tight ends on this roster. And that could mean we get new formations. We see more of Julian Hill, who I've been loving in training camp so far. Tanner Conner's on the team, so maybe he'll probably be in for special teams. But for Julian Hill, he might leapfrog Durham Smythe as the tight end 3 when this is all said and done. But I'm liking what I'm seeing out of this tight end group. Way more encouraging this year than I was last year about the tight ends. I'm pretty encouraged about this tight end group that the Dolphins have. Offensive line, the Dolphins carried 10 offensive linemen. They got Teron Armstead, Aaron Brewer, which, by the way, Aaron Brewer might not be playing week 1. He's been dealing with a hand injury for a couple weeks now, and Mike McDaniel said today that the status of Aaron Brewer for week 1 is uncertain. And we don't know if he's going to be on the field for week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which means more shifting already in the offensive line. Lester Cotton, Jack Driscoll, Liam Eichenberg, Austin Jackson, Robert Jones, Kendall Lamb, Andrew Mayer, the undrafted rookie, and Patrick Paul. So those are your 10 offensive linemen for the Miami Dolphins this year. And yeah, there's depth at offensive line, I guess. But how good is that depth? How good is that depth? I have no idea. They're not, from recent memory, they're not that good. And if Aaron Brewer is not playing week 1 against Jacksonville, your O-line is going to be Teron Armstead, Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg, Lester Cotton, and Austin Jackson. Those are going to be your offensive linemen week 1 if Aaron Brewer doesn't end up playing. And by the way, McDaniel's talking about it today. It seems like he's not going to be ready for week 1. Now we go to the defense. Calais Campbell, Deshaun Hand, Benito Jones, Brandon Peely, and Zach Sealer. This team cut Isaiah Mack, and they cut Neville Gallimore, who they signed to a 1-year deal this offseason. And a couple weeks ago, they cut Tier Tart as well. Linebacker room, edge rusher / linebacker crowded room. Quentin Bell made the team. I think he'll get some reps at pass rushing, but in the later of the year, if he's still on this team, special teams. Jordan Brooks, Mo Kamara, David Long Jr., Emmanuel Ogbah, Jalen Phillips, Duke Riley, Chop Robinson, Channing Tindall, and Anthony Walker Jr. Those are your linebackers, edge rushers. So basically, you can go edge rushers. You can put Bell in there, Kamara in there, Ogbah, Jalen Phillips, and Chop Robinson. And then the linebackers, you got Brooks, David Long, Duke, Channing Tindall, and Anthony Walker. I like that group. Again, I'm way more encouraged by the linebackers this year than I was last year. Way more encouraged by that. Corners, we have Ethan Bonner, the undrafted rookie. Storm Duck, baby. I really wanted Storm Duck to make this team, and Storm Duck made the team. But a shocking cut that the Dolphins had was Nick Needham. I did not expect Nick Needham to get cut. Maybe he's going to be on the practice squad and gets back on the active roster at some point in the season, but totally was not expecting that at all. Was not expecting Nick Needham to get cut. So Ethan Bonner, Storm Duck, Kendall Fuller, Kader Kohu, Saran Neal, and Jalen Ramsey. So Kendall Fuller, obviously he's replacing Xavier Howard, and I expect Kader Kohu once again to be in the nickel corner position. Safeties, the Dolphins have 5 safeties: Elijah Campbell, Javon Holland, Marcus May, Patrick McMorris, and Jordan Poyer. And then special teams, Jake Bailey and Jason Sanders. And they cut Blake Ferguson. I don't like that. I do think Blake Ferguson's going to end up back on this team, hopefully. But if there's one cut that made me a little upset, it was Nick Needham and Blake Ferguson. I hope Blake Ferguson makes it back onto the team. He's a long snapper for the Dolphins, and he seems like a good locker room guy to have on the team. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is your 2024 Miami Dolphins roster for now. For now, I'm concerned with wide receiver. Okay? Wide receiver is the main concern. They need another quarterback on this roster. You cannot go in with 2 quarterbacks to start the season. And no matter who they get, from Ryan Tannehill or to some undrafted scrub, they're going to be the 3rd-string quarterback because they don't know the offense. So, they need a wide receiver, of course. I've already given you my thoughts on that. I think Kadarius Toney, even though his struggles last year, I think he can fit in this offense. I really do. But who am I to say that? Because when we traded for Chase Claypool last year, I'm like, maybe Mike McDaniel can fix Chase Claypool. We saw what he did for us last year. Jack squat. So, I'm getting out of here. Those were my reactions. Thank you all so much for watching the video. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Big Fight Field channel. Hit the like button if you like what you heard from me. Follow me on Twitter, Conlin_Joseph. And I'll see you Monday. Have a good week. Stay safe. And as always, stay classy. And fins up, baby. Go Fins.